Hello, everyone. Welcome to Growth Mindset. Today we'll be talking about how to navigate our growth professionally, personally, individually through what I am calling purposeful challenge, grit, and gratitude. So if you're here today to want to learn a little bit more on exploring your own self, reflecting how you approach challenge, and really understanding knowledge through your strengths and skills to be hopefully better, then this is the appropriate place for you. So welcome to this space today. For those who are joining us in our live edition today, here's a little bit about our just webinar etiquette. Make sure that you're silencing your microphone if you're not talking. Feel free to go ahead and type those questions into the message box and chat function. That'll be a great way for us to engage. And also, I'll do my best to reiterate those for those who might be watching our video down the road a little bit. We'll make sure that you're also just as informed as everyone else. And a reminder again that the session is going to be recorded and distributed on YouTube. So questions might be visible. However, again, your video will not be. And then just in general, just being respectful of each other's learning environment. So I want to introduce myself. Hello. My name is Marianne Price. I utilize the pronouns she, her, hers. And I'm currently the Dean of Students and Title IX Coordinator at Holy Family. What you'll see there on the screen is a little wellness services graphic. So part of my role at Holy Family is to oversee our wellness services office. And that includes our Dean of Students office, health services, our counseling center, disability support services, and Title IX. So really my focus is on holistic wellness and making sure that you're both successful in the classroom, outside of the classroom, and that we provide avenues for holistic thinking through those lenses, which is why I think our conversation and chat today around growth mindset will be hopefully really beneficial for all of us. All right. So since we are spending a little time together and in this state of new normal, I'm from the comfort of my home. So I wanted to introduce what my sort of space is today. One, you'll meet my wonderful dog, Jackson. You'll see him there. He's my four-legged fur baby. So that is what our outdoor space looks like. If the weather was better today, hopefully we could be outside. But that's Jackson. And then this is some artwork of the state of Arkansas, which is where I am originally from. That usually is in my workspace. I typically always have coffee available, and I'm typically always drinking coffee. So that's sort of like where my lens is coming from. Spending time together today, I'll be doing that surrounded by artwork. If you are able to see behind me, a great quilt. So just really embracing sort of our space and how important that is. And then this growth through gratitude. I'm really intrigued by that space of how we can all be grateful for what we have, how we're able to grow from it, how to really embrace sort of this challenge and grit and gratitude. And we'll be sort of navigating some of that together today. So here's a little bit about what we'll be doing. Together, we're going to be navigating our growth through purposeful challenge, grit, and gratitude. So we'll really explore ourselves, reflect how we approach challenges, create understanding of knowledge, and how we use strength and skill to be a better person. So we're really going to talk through what does it mean to have a mindset, the benefits of cultivating those mindsets. You'll have some opportunity to engage in reflection. So even if you're joining us here today as part of this conversation, or if you're watching this later, you'll be able to really sort of pause, take some time to reflect on some things. And even if we aren't able to navigate that together, you'll be able to do that sort of on your own. And then hopefully we'll end in sort of that powerful space of purpose, power of mindset, understanding why this is really important. And really we're going to sort of lay that groundwork of the takeaway, which is when you approach life with a growth mindset, you understand that abilities can be developed. And we're thinking of that term abilities as learning, knowledge, skill. So the ability to grow, the ability to develop, the ability to see challenge as something new, different. So that's sort of what we're going to be engaging in today. So much of what we're talking about is going to be based on the book. It's called mindset, the new psychology of success. And typically I would have that right next to me, but of course I don't. So instead, you'll be able to take a look at some of the resources available to you and learn a little bit more about that book. But this sort of thought process was developed by Dr. Carol Dweck, and she is a Stanford University professor and researcher, and really will be sort of infusing a lot of her thought and theology in some of the pieces throughout our time together today. So the first sort of process is that we view the view that you adopt for yourself profoundly affects the way you lead your life. So when we really think about that your qualities are not carved necessarily in stone, rather your skills and abilities really can be acquired through experiences and challenges. So when we think about even today's sort of world where we're navigating this new normal of a medical pandemic in our world, how do we take those experiences and challenges? I have really grown to be an online teacher. I've learned how to use technology to really extend my skills. And while it feels very frustrating at first to not understand something of how do you present a webinar from your home by yourself with no other person around you when you feed off of other people, this is a challenge that I've taken away and really understand the growth that comes through that. So that's really about how you adopt yourself profoundly affects the way you lead your life. So our mindset will guide how we approach challenge, allows us to really love in the face of difficulty, and really allows for us to find success in doing our best, learning, and improving. So we're going to take a moment here, which we're calling our pause and reflect. So again, we've got our Holy Family Tigers. So this is a time where we're all going to take a moment to pause, reflect, and look at our question prompts. So what we're going to do is really explore our mindset. And some of that it comes into how do we think about ourselves. That's that mindset pieces. So I'd like to frame this in the idea of mistakes, challenges. So this is a time when we're all going to take a few moments, pause, take a look at some of our prompts here. So how do we feel when we make a mistake? How do we think others perceive us when we make a mistake? How do we use that time to discover something new about ourselves? And have you ever felt proud of making that mistake? So if you're joining us today, really take some time to explore that. If you'd like to share some of your thoughts, you're welcome to do that as you feel comfortable using our chat function. And for those of you watching our video, again, a time where you can pause now, take a look at the list of questions, maybe jot down some thoughts, think about some thoughts, but really the goal of this reflection as you're thinking through those is to explore what mindset we are in, even if we've never considered that before. So have you ever considered what does it mean when I make a mistake? Do we actually think about our feelings? So when I forget to meet a deadline or something else happened and I didn't do that, how does that make me feel? How do I perceive others make me feel? Does when I don't achieve something, is that because I didn't do the best I could do? And do you feel guilty when maybe your mistake affects other people? So really what we want to think about is, are we challenge driven, or what I'm sort of calling the challenge paused, and using that word as the PAUSED, meaning when we look at that challenge and we explore that challenge, is it something that really drives us to learn something new? Have we ever really felt proud of making a mistake? For others, they're saying sometimes it can be really difficult. Sometimes it can be really fun. It's just one of those things that we sort of do together. Oops, sorry, I had a little jump that popped up there. All right, moving back. So when we are challenge driven, challenge pause, do we embrace the opportunity, I think, to learn more from what we're doing? Are we embracing that opportunity? Someone who's joining us today says that they really feel like people think that they might be incompetent, or they don't have that knowledge base respecting that mistakes are part of a growing process. And that is spot on. That is the pieces that we think about, is that's the mindset we're in, that if I'm not able to do and achieve what's in front of me, what does that mean for me? And what does that mean for others? So really that's what we call this growth mindset versus fixed mindset. So Do we embrace that opportunity to learn something from a mistake? Do we take time to explore our challenges and mistakes? And then do we recognize that that lack of knowledge makes us better? And I think really recognizing that that is part of the process and that is part of the growth process. So what we sort of look at this through is, what does that growth mindset mean? And that growth mindset is about an understanding that our abilities and understanding that those abilities can be developed. Similar to others who are joining us today, saying that's really part of the process. That really failure is opportunity to grow. And I think that word failure feels very heavy, and none of us want to be failures or we want to fail at anything. But what do we do when we have that term failure? For those with a growth mindset, they really believe that they can get smarter, more intelligent, more talented through putting in time and effort. So the challenges help us grow the growth mindset. Your effort, attitude, all of those things really determine your abilities. Where on the flip side, we talk about is our fixed mindset. And that really is one that assumes that abilities, our levels of intelligence are relatively fixed, meaning it either comes naturally or it doesn't. One of the things that if you have recently joined Holy Family University, our freshman year experience course, we have infused this process of strengths-based leadership, meaning that all of us have inherent talents. It means there's things that we're really good at. There's strengths that just come natural to us. And maybe that's sort of the pieces that we've been dealt. Those are the things that come to us. What we want to say are, those are the things that maybe you feel very confident in, but how about we look at those other strengths that maybe don't come as natural to us, but how do we really utilize those to grow? I think some of us really like to try new things. We really want to sort of explore new things. So really that fixed mindset, it's really either we have it or we don't, where that growth mindset is, you know what, I'm willing to try new things and I'm willing to sort of move forward. So as we explore what mindset looks like to us, something that sort of comes to mind is the mindset continuum. And if you're taking a look here, you'll see that fixed mindset, sort of that mountain, that growth mindset, that plant, that flower. Although if you live in my house, you would learn that those plants don't last very long. But I still try every time. I'm not good at growing them. It doesn't come naturally to me. I can make a garden outside. It's great. But inside, the plants do not survive. So much of what I've had to do is figure out, how do I explore that? How do I become better at that? So really, that growth mindset is, I see that as an opportunity for improvement. I'm willing to put in a little bit more time. I tend to really just want to set those ambitious goals and achieve them. And so really this time is for us to really explore, when you think about this continuum, where do you think about yourself? If we go back to that mistake pieces of, a lot of times there's mistakes that happen, but what do we do with those? Are we learning from them? Are we developing from them? Are we thinking about them? Are we looking at what knowledge did we not have that maybe led us to that? Maybe there were some outside pieces that impacted those, but really just sort of looking at, are we going to stay in that mindset, which is, you know what, this is just it. There's not much time for me to really navigate through that. Or are we going to think about achieving more because we're worrying less about that seeming that we have the knowledge or seeming that we have the talent, and do we put our energy into learning? And I think especially as many of us are students, that's something that happens. For those of us who are educators, administrators, we're constantly learning. I think of really the last many weeks, we've had to learn how to engage with each of our students, all of you, in a space that we're not together. And that's really been a challenge that whether we liked it or not, we had to be in that growth mindset. And so it's really feels like this is a fitting conversation to have now, because it's important that we sort of think about how do we grow and develop from this space. All right, so again, as I shared in the beginning, we're sort of infusing some of this knowledge of what this means from Dr. Dweck, who sort of piloted and laid the groundwork for the growth mindset. And so again, those things that resonating with me: do not believe that your qualities are carved in stone. Again, when we looked at that continuum, we saw that mountain, there was a flag on top, and instead we recognize that skill and knowledge, so that continuum, So how do we get from that mountain to that plant can be acquired through experiences and challenge. So even if we hop back over to our mindset continuum, what sort of skills or knowledge need to make that arrow move to a different space? And that is about the growth mindset. So let's identify those experiences. Let's identify those challenges. So really that's important when we think about, us with a growth mindset. We don't just seek challenge, we thrive on it. And I think that can be very heavy. I don't know that that necessarily comes naturally to all of us. I think sometimes we need to really identify and be provided with a challenge. So that's that sort of like trigger point. And then we need to just to really be able to cultivate, again, that soil for that growth mindset. All right, so as we move forward, we're going to think about the growth mindset from a perspective of a new project or assignment. And for those of us who might be administrators or not students all day and maybe taking a look at sort of what we can grow and develop from this, maybe think about this from, a space that is maybe not so much a like an assignment or project, but maybe a task or oversight that we have. So again, this is the time where we're going to take a moment to pause. We're going to reflect. And if you're willing, you're welcome to answer some of these prompts. But again, we're going to think about this and consider this and reflect on this from a new project or assignment. So we're in a class, and this new assignment requires us to work with a partner. It also is asking us to work on a topic that is something that you're not very knowledgeable about. You're also a little bit hesitant to work with others because working on a shared project is not a strength that you feel that you have. Maybe it's not something that you don't feel you can't do, but maybe it's something that's just not inherently a strength of yours. So again, that growth mindset saying, all right, I'm going to embrace this challenge. I'm going to figure out how to work in a group. I'm going to explore that. That fixed mindset is going to say, this is not something I'm good at. I'm just going to take my grade, move forward, do the bare minimum to get through. So really, let's think about how do we approach a new project or an assignment that you're not very knowledgeable about. So if it's something that doesn't come naturally to you, what do you do with that? How do you approach something that you're not knowledgeable about? The other piece of that, if the task or project is not one of your strengths, how do you approach that? For many who know me, I find that I get a lot of energy from people, from persons. So when I think about new projects, tasks, assignments that I'm working on now, I'm having to do actually a lot of that autonomously, certainly reaching out to other people. But I find that I do my best work when I'm able to communicate with others, when we're able to really sort of think about things in a little bit different places. So now we have to really think about these things from that mindset piece. What does that mean? Someone saying, that their default is to do a ton of research online. Absolutely. That's the nature of what we're doing. And man, does that just like not resonate right now? It sounds like what you want to do is say, all right, I may not be knowledgeable, but let's go out and look for that. But in a team environment, they're really, they've shared that they challenge them to rely on their teammates and their expertise. And that's something that, again, I think we can all do as, through that growth mindset. That's what comes through gratitude. Gratitude is a part of the growth mindset. Recognizing the expertise of others, recognizing what other people bring to us. I think for this, it can be very tempting to say, you know what, I'm not good at this. This is not my strong suit. But it doesn't mean that you can't learn it. I think similar to some of our peers here saying, I sort of go out and I get that information. The fixed mindset is gonna probably approach this a little bit more self-defeated. Not necessarily that they feel that there's any point in moving forward because this isn't something that's our cup of tea. Again, on the other hand, if we are to explore this and think about this and pause and reflect through what we know about that growth mindset, the new challenge is an opportunity to grow. So what can we do to figure this out? What do I need to do to get my skills at the right level? Are there people I can talk to? Are there other groups? What is the person who I'm on a team with being asked to do? What knowledge can they bring at the table? When we think about challenges that offer us to grow, This is something that can lead us to new skills, new knowledge, and new areas of expertise. And as we think of a growth mindset, let's say maybe as a student, that's something that we can also bring into our professional careers. If you're a student now, really cultivating what that means to have a growth mindset now can help sort of lead you into a positive space as you navigate your career. Um, really thinking about what are our new areas of expertise, um, maybe helping increase our confidence in our abilities, and really allowing us to look at tasks at hand as a challenge and an opportunity to grow. So if you're, joining us now today, again, just think about this and resonate. What does that mean when we have challenges that are asking us to grow? If you're watching this later, again, pause, really reflect on that. Maybe think about something you've had to do recently, and really sort of navigate what do we do with these new challenges as opportunity for growth. All right, so now we're going to take some time to really engage what I call mindset reflection. So some of us have maybe never been asked to really reflect on what is our mindset. This is not something that I've been asked specifically. I've never been asked to really think about, do I have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset? I know that I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not good at. I know what comes naturally to me. So what you see in front of you, if you're on the screen or if you are sort of going through this list in a differing way, you're either seeing, hearing, or engaging with a list of those essentially prompts that reflect growth mindset. So if you're joining us today, maybe take a look at the list and what are maybe one or two of these that are really resonating with you. Um, what do you see on this list that you seem very comfortable with? What do you see on this list that seems super challenging? How do we embrace and reflect when there's so many other considerations? So for me, I think viewing challenge as opportunities for self-improvement can be very difficult, especially in my role as the Dean of Students. A lot of times I'm making decisions that impact a lot of people. And what if I feel like I'm not going to make the right decision at the moment? What if I make a decision and you know what, we did a little bit more research, or maybe I should have done something a little bit different? Um, I tend to sit with that and say, you know what, I don't want to be the person who's doing this kind of work anymore because it's way too much. Instead, maybe I should view those challenges as opportunities for self-improvement. And so as I've really grown in my career, I would say that's a growth mindset reflection that's really, how do we develop and build our challenges as opportunity for self-improvement? We think about this sometimes when we're starting a new class. Maybe we're starting Spanish 101. And on that first exam, I've never been asked to recall a language that is differing than the one that I speak regularly. I've never been asked to write a paper on a topic that has to do with philosophy because that just doesn't come naturally to me. So maybe we're starting through those assignments early on in the semester and our grades are reflecting that we're not spending enough time really navigating those topics, really thinking about those pieces. So those are opportunities for self-improvement. You know what? Instead of spending 10 minutes or 20 minutes on each chapter, now I'm going to spend 40 minutes because I know that it's an opportunity for self-improvement. Really, recognizing and being inspired by other people, I think is an area that can be something that as we grow as learners and developers are really important. Um, and I think for me, emphasizing learning well over learning quickly is something that I've had to really integrate and cultivate into my mindset when I think about reflection. So it doesn't mean that I'm going to get it very quickly. It doesn't mean I'm going to know it very fast, but it is something that I've had to think about is sometimes learning goes just a little bit slower and is not as fast. So again, what are some of those things that feel comfortable to you? Where do you think things might be a little bit more challenging? I think for others, really, reflecting on our learning regularly. If we're doing really well or feeling that we're meeting all of our goals, why go back to it? Let's just keep moving forward. But really, never stop looking past your goal and really striving towards future is again that growth mindset that we can always be better, that there are always skills and knowledge to gain. All right, so as we continue to move forward, and as I've sort of integrated myself with this growth mindset portions, something that I've really that has been resonating with me is this thought of purposeful. So when I think of growth mindset, it's a purposeful challenge, it's purposeful grit. And for those that maybe are not as familiar with the term grit, grit really is about strength of character, passion, perseverance, really recognizing that even in a time of great challenge, that sort of having that grit is super important to us. And then also purposeful growth. So while things may feel very challenging in the moment, they may be feeling like something I'm not able to really attain those goals or follow through those goals. We're going to work really hard through commitments and really learn to grow. So what you might see or be engaging with are what we call these 10 growth mindset sentences. So really about replacing some of our language or thought or thinking about it in this way or really integrating and constantly reflecting. Some of the theme you might sort of take away from today is I'm really going to ask you to consistently reflect and think about ways that you can integrate some of these things and some of the things that you're already doing. So that you recognize challenge as a time to get better. We're going to come back to actually this thought of I am not good at this yet. And the power, when we talk about purposeful power of the term yet, that you're going to really think about what you're missing, learning how to learn more from others, what other strategies you can use. Really, again, going back to those mistakes can really help us learn. So what do we need to do to really resonate with that? Who can I ask for help? Which I think can sometimes be really, really hard. Asking others, I think many times, again, that knowledge, not having that knowledge may feel like something we're supposed to have. Maybe that's embarrassing, but really just conceptualizing that is something that is a growth opportunity, a challenge opportunity. And again, one of my personal favorites, minor setback, major comeback. Because I think that just really, I don't know, really sits with me of sometimes when we take, they say if you take, 3 steps back, only 1 step forward, or vice versa. 1 step back, can we take 3 steps forward? Can we move a little bit slower in one direction, but man, then we start picking up the pace as we really navigate and think about those comebacks. So again, purposeful challenge, purposeful grit, purposeful growth, all sort of part of that growth mindset. So I said we would come back to this. And if you familiarize yourself a little bit with this philosophy of growth mindset, and specifically Dr. Dweck, who I've been referring to, the power and purpose in the word yet. So really it's about embracing that all failure, one, is inevitable. We have to embrace that sense that using our current level of knowledge is important, but also embracing our ability to build on that knowledge and those skills. And that can really be done through this power of the term yet or not yet. So again, we're all on this learning journey. So maybe we're in a learning journey as a student. Maybe I'm in a learning journey as a wife. Maybe I'm in a learning journey as a peer, as a colleague. And just because I have an accomplished task, project, growth, development, enter whatever word you'd like there, yet doesn't mean that you cannot or should not try. So really thinking about conceptualizing everything through the term yet, and certainly that you shouldn't give up. I ran for SGA president. I didn't get it this year. However, I know that I just didn't get it yet. I'm going to keep trying to move forward to be a student leader, and maybe that looks a little bit differently. Again, just conceptualizing it that you should try and not give up, and that your yet is coming, and maybe your yet is just not yet here. And how really important, powerful, and purposeful conceptualizing our challenges in that way, because we all have the potential to develop. We all have the potential to develop our skills. Sometimes it's about motivation, and I think something that, well, we haven't really talked about or explored here, I think that's an underlying concept of we do have to find some motivation in this. And so you'll see in some of the resources and view and engage with some of those resources that I provided you, some opportunity to really navigate through motivation and how motivation really plays in this. Because sometimes we're not at that space, um, but what do we do to try and get into that space to be motivated by the challenge, allowing that challenge to be our motivator? Because at the end, the reward is so great that motivates us to want to keep trying. So really just instilling that hope that sometimes, our belief is what needs to catapult us to success that maybe we haven't really engaged with otherwise. So again, that power and purpose in the term yes. So when we think about growth mindset, it's really allowing us to love in the face of difficult. So how do we really find success in what we're doing? How do we really continue to be successful, be focused again in that time of difficulty? Number 5 that we are talking about here, those with a growth mindset found success in doing their best, in learning and improving. And this is exactly what we find in the champions. And why that is really resonating with me is because I'd like to sort of introduce you, if you will, to someone who I hopeful you all know that is probably one of the greatest all-time champions to really show us how growth mindset can work. So this is a time where we're going to think about pausing and reflecting, and I'd like to introduce you to the growth mindset of a champion. And if you're not familiar with an all-star champion basketball player, his name is Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan may go down in history as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, basketball player of all time. What many do not know about Michael Jordan is that he was actually not a very good basketball player when he first started. He was cut from his varsity basketball team. He was not recruited by a college he wanted to play for. When he joined his college, the University of North Carolina, he was actually not the best player on his college team, not expected to be the best player on his college team. He also was not drafted by the first 2 NBA teams. So the year that Michael Jordan was actually drafted in the NBA, he was drafted 3rd. And when you do a little research and wanting to know a little bit more about Michael Jordan's story, what you'll learn is that Michael Jordan early in his high school career, the time when he was cut from his varsity basketball team, was given this advice: discipline yourself, build your knowledge, learn to be better, improve yourself through hard work. So his response was he got up every morning 3 hours before class started. He went to a basketball court. He practiced. He engaged with other people. He asked more questions. He studied film. He studied what the best basketball players were doing, and he grew and developed. And it was really about his grit and growth. So when we think about I think if you think of like a shining star, if you will, of grit and growth mindset, I think Michael Jordan can really represent that for all of us, that those with a growth mindset can find success in doing their best, in learning and improving. And this is exactly what we find in champions. And I think you can take this for myself. I haven't always been the best. I have been as maybe a professor or a teacher, educator, or even a dean of students, but really just having that mindset to discipline myself, build myself through knowledge, learn to be better. So as a student, that's again something that, if there's an area that is not resonating with you, or when you're trying to find that perfect internship, things like that, it's really about improving yourself through hard work. All right, so sort of as we come to, I think, sort of close, sort of moving on from here, we're going to take again some time for pause and reflect, and really revisiting some of those outcomes that we put out for ourselves today. And I want to really think about this through that lens of I do, I am, I will, I can. So thinking about success, thinking about using positive reinforcement, thinking about that you're always willing to succeed, and thinking about even if you think you can or can't, that at the end of the day you can. So how we learn to fulfill our potential. How do we learn to really, I do, I am, I will, I can. And that's really being welcome to differences in our mindset. So there's going to be times where we're navigating life through a fixed mindset, and we're also navigating life through a growth mindset. So how do we explore our limits, explore our grit, and explore our persistence in mindset. How do we think about and reflect on ways, and we can go back to some of those pause and reflect opportunities. So if you're really still sitting right with that, this is a great opportunity, either today to think on that, or if you're joining us today or later, to go back to this video in a different format and really go back to thinking about our pause and reflect. What do mistakes represent for us when we're tackling a new challenge or assignment? What does that mean for us? And then recognizing the benefits of cultivating a growth mindset. So again, reflecting on some of those prompts that we talked about, just embracing the power of seeing challenges as successes, seeing challenges as knowledge and skills, and seeing challenges as times that we can grow and develop. So again, that takeaway is I do, I am, I will, I can. And that's important to sort of think about as you're navigating as a student, as a career professional, in an internship setting, in a clinical setting, as a student teacher, just continuing to really think about and navigate our world from this space is really, really important. So we are going to go into a space where if there's anyone joining us today who would like to ask questions, we have some time certainly set aside to do that. I'm happy to respond to anything that we've gone through. Maybe something's still resonating with you. Maybe you want to know more about really integrating the self. I will also caveat with I'm not an expert in this field, if you will, but have embraced that growth and mindset to really build on my skills, to learn more, to try and develop. Because this piece, again, resonating, it's not necessarily how good you are, but it's how good you want to be. And while I think there's always outside entities that affect that. So when we think about privilege, power, difference, equity, inclusion, those are all things that affect our ability to be good and to be as good as you want to be. And I think that's something that, again, we didn't explore so much here, but would actually be a great topic for another day of how do those then infuse our abilities to be successful? What does privilege, power, and difference look like? What does diversity, equity, and inclusion feel like when you're really framing it through opportunity for success and challenge? And that's something that I think you can sort of think about, resonate with, walk away from, come away with, of sort of thinking about that from a different mindset as well. While we're thinking about, feel free, if there's questions, we can ask those as we move along. But something that I do want to provide to you that you can take a look here is I really like to, when I offer important access to education or materials, just ways can we continue to explore this. So there's a website, you'll see the link listed there of 5 simple activities for exploring the power of mindsets. And it's really through that lens that seems sort of, I think, a less risky place for us to do that. So exploring why we choose to adopt the type of mindset we do, how that shapes our future, really how our mindset grows and shows up in our groups. And I think that sort of also speaks to what I talked about as well in regards to diversity, equity, inclusion, privilege, power, difference, that sometimes that can infuse in our opportunity to change our mindset or engage our mindset. And that's a really important thing to keep in mind. Creating cultures of contribution. So how do we thrive when everyone contributing comes in it with that growth mindset? I think that also speaks to that leadership mindset, why that's really important as well moving forward. So, if you're here today, feel free to take away, this website for something to look at in the future. If you're visiting us later, this is, again, you'll see this on the list of resources, something to explore with as well. All right, doesn't seem that we have any specific questions moving forward. So these are, we always like to provide those references of ways that we receive some of our information. I also found all of my references are really great tools for you as continuing learning. I am a lifelong learner and like to have that opportunity to do that. So again, those 5 simple activities, the growth mindset, so learning a little bit more about this philosophy and topic by the individual herself. She also did do a pretty great TED Talk that is really about the power of believing that you can improve. And I think as we think of ourselves as persons, just really always being on that space to want to improve, but also recognizing what that looks like and that power of belief. So purposeful power. What is a growth mindset versus fixed mindset? Really exploring that a little bit more. And then you'll see that similarly in the other piece. All right. And then finally, to sort of wrap up here, just reminding everyone that this is part of our Pause and Reflect learning series. And so if you're joining us live today, just recognizing that we do have a few more sessions going on over the next many days, specifically on goal setting, preparing for those exams, reflecting on our journey. The other piece is if you are coming to us later on, these are all going to be topics that are part of our learning series that you can go back and grab and review at any time. So if any of these topics or areas are really resonating with you, make sure you take a look at the Student Engagement Office and their associated YouTube channel to watch some of those videos, engage with some of those topics, because this is something that even if you're not joining us today, that you can walk away with. All of these pieces are really important to making us better learners, better supporters, and will actually really help infuse that growth mindset as learners. So it doesn't look like we have any other questions for today. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time. It's always important to acknowledge the time that people take out of their days to engage with information. So thank you for taking the time. If you're here today, if you're watching this later, thanks so much for taking the time to want to grow and develop and wanting to be a part of this information. Hopefully those resources will continue to be helpful for you. And I really encourage you to continue to be a purposeful learner, a purposeful grower, a purpose and grit, purpose and challenge, and just seeing purposeful growth through a mindset that allows you to be a lifelong learner. So thank you so much for your time today, and it was a pleasure being with each of you.